Good morning, afternoon, and or evening. This would be the second official installment or episode of Real Life with Cupid. Real Life with Cupid, if you're just tuning in, is basically a space for me to vent, feel, encourage, and let whoever's watching know that they're not alone, in whatever it is that they're going through. I've had some hardships recently, emotionally. You name it. 2020 has been a hell of a year. And this platform is just one that is supposed to, talk about my experiences and, promote, just communication about whatever it is that is bothering you, whether it be from, a week ago up until, you were 2 or 3, everything plays a part in who you are today. So when we start to tap into those things and we start to talk about those things, we start to get some answers, as to, why we do some of the things that we do and, who we are as a result of those experiences. So if you're just tuning in, like, share, comment, subscribe, and just send out to somebody who you feel can get something from this. So on the last episode, I believe we left off at the age of 10 when finally, met my parents. And, there were some, difficulties in, getting close to them. There were some difficulties in opening up to them and sharing with them. There was just a very big disconnect, being that I hadn't seen them for so long in my life and experienced a lot in their absence. Part of me blamed a lot of those things on them. It wasn't until recently that, we talked about those things, but we'll get to that later. So where we're picking up now is, the age of 10 until 16. So 10 to 16, and I call this trouble. The reason why I call this trouble is I feel like any immigrant, anybody, coming into the U.S. from another country that enters the school system at some point in time can relate to trouble, because, fitting in is always tough and kids are really brutal, So I guess my earliest memory of, school in the U.S. was probably 5th grade. I went to Smith Barnes Elementary School. I remember it was particularly tough because I was that kid, basically it's what we call FOB, fresh off the boat. I had a very, very different mindset. Back in Nigeria, you see your guy friends, you can hug your friends and it's perfectly fine. Unfortunately, at the time in the US, like, you see your guy friends, you try to hug them, they look at you like, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to hug me? So there were some cultural differences. I remember specifically, I got in trouble in 5th grade, I believe. Yes, 5th grade. I got in trouble because growing up, I didn't really know what the middle finger was. But in America, evidently it's a thing, and it's very disrespectful to use. I was in line at lunch, and one of my classmates had some Starburst. And I was like, hey, can I have one? You know, not knowing what the middle finger was, obviously, just a regular finger, to me. And, she gives me one, but then I get back to class after lunch, and then I find out I have detention. I'm like, why do I have detention? Because you shot the bird. I'm like, what is the bird? Which one is the bird? I didn't shoot no bird. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that? Funny enough, I learned that day, but I still got in trouble. I had instances like that throughout high school. I think I had one in 6th grade. I transferred I started at Dutchtown Middle School. 6th grade, teacher hands out some papers, and me, 6th grade, I'd always been, academically inclined, book smart, but I was also very annoying. I was younger than everybody, in my class. I was 2 years younger than everybody in my class. So teacher hands out a paper, and I raised my hand as, I was very eager, and I was like, Miss Johnston, what are we supposed to do with this sheet? And the whole class is like, ooh, he said a bad. And I'm looking, I just said these sheets right here, and got in trouble. I think I got like silent lunch, detention. And they weren't very understanding of cultural differences, I suppose. These are funny now, but back then, they were very, very, very stressful experiences. It was just like, in my attempt to fit in, I was just, I was shown that I was just that much more different, than everybody else. So that was, I guess, my middle school experience. Got bullied immensely. Like, it was bad. I remember in 8th grade, I was 11. There was this kid who I will not name, but he was in 10th grade at the time. I believe he was 17. And I was 11. And I rode the school bus, but the school bus picked up the high schoolers usually first, and then would pick up the middle schoolers. But on this particular Friday, the bus picked up the middle schoolers first, and then the high schoolers. So I get on the school bus, all the middle schoolers like, oh my God, we got seats in the back of the bus. It's like, it was the thing to do, to go sit in the back. It'd be cool or whatever. And we never got a chance to, because the high schoolers were always sitting at the back of the bus. And so I sit, relatively close to the back. And then the bus comes around, picks up the high schoolers, and then there's this kid, significantly older than I was. He gets on the bus. I guess he was having a very bad day. And, he looks at me and he's like, "A N-word, get out my effing seat," And I'm like, okay, like, you don't have to talk to me like that. And he's like, "What you say to me?" And then I remember I was like, nothing, man. And I go about 5 seats up. I sit down, minding my business. Next thing I know, a bottle flies past my head, and like, barely missed me. I look back and it's him. And I look back and he's like, "You got something to say?" I was like, "No, man, chill. Like, it's not that deep." And then he gets really mad. He's like, "What do you mean it's not that deep?" At that point in time, he gets up and he starts coming towards my seat, and I remember getting up, trying to avoid him, and walking towards the front of the bus, all while the driver is still driving, the bus is still moving, and next thing you know, he just starts wailing on me. He just starts punching me and hitting me in the back of the head, because I'm walking towards the front of the bus away from him, and he's following me. And I get to the front, I get down the stairs, the bus is still moving, bus drivers, I don't know what the bus driver is doing at this point. And this is me just, literally at the last step, to get off the bus. And he grabs my head and repeatedly he's hitting my head against the bus window, just boom, 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 until finally the bus driver stops and he's like, what's going on? He's like, I'm gonna call the cops or whatever, and he just never did. That was the story of basically how middle/high school went for me. And when I got to, I guess it happened all through 9th grade when I started high school at the age of 12. And 10th grade, I was, like, man, I don't like being picked on. So I made an extra effort to try to fit in. I tried out for sports, made friends, even went as far as joining a little clique/gang, whatever you want to call it, with some kids who all they did was fight. We would be in the bathrooms in school fighting. I tried to learn how to fight. And I remember there was this kid, he was supposedly like one of the, I guess, founders or initiators or generals in the gang. And I remember we got into a fight and I happened to knock him out. I didn't know that this was going to cause trouble. And I remember, I think a couple of days later, we were at school at lunch. I'm sitting with all the guys who were in the gang, the clique, and somebody made a joke. It was like, hey man, better chill out before I get so-and-so on you. And I was like, anybody worried about him? I knocked him out a couple of days ago, and I didn't realize how bad that was going to be. And they was like, no, you didn't. I was like, yeah, I did. Like, he came to and he was asking, what day is it? Like, where am I? And that legitimately happened, And so I remember this. It was another Friday. This was like that following Friday. They come to my house. They press the doorbell, and they used to do that often, where we'll play football in the yard or whatever the case may be. But on this particular day, he came with his brother and 2 of his other friends, and knocked on the door. He was like, hey man, just trying to chop it up with you, just trying to talk to you. And I come down the stairs. My parents are in the bedroom, fast asleep. It's a Friday evening. They just got back from work. And he was like, I heard you was talking shit about me, saying you beat my ass. And I was like, I wasn't talking shit, I was just kind of saying what happened. I mean, I didn't lie. He was like, all right, I want a rematch. You got to shoot me my one. And I'm like, you seem kind of upset. And mind you, I'm this, although I still had my accent at this time, but I'm this very well-spoken kid where just about everything I say can be misconstrued as me being a smart ass, and just the kids that were around me were not well-spoken. They all spoke street vernacular or slang or whatever it is. So I'm just like, well, I mean, I didn't lie. I didn't knock you out. I didn't knock your ass out. Boy, I was terrible. And he was like, I did, bet, you know what I'm saying? And so I go down the stairs and we square up, you know what I'm saying? And I noticed that my positioning, literally, like I'm directly in front of him, and then I noticed that his brother is to my left and the other 2 friends are positioned, kind of strangely around me. It didn't take long for me to realize that I was about to get jumped. So we start, the first hit, he misses. Like, I come back, I hit him one good time, boop, right there. Then as soon as I hit him, I get hit from the right, left, whatever. And I was like, oh crap. Then I see another one coming. So I duck down. I run inside the house. I was like, absolutely not. Apparently that hit connected with my nose. My nose was bleeding, whatever. And that hit, this is how I broke my pinky finger. When I hit him first, because that's the way I connected. I never got it checked out because I was scared to tell my parents. So it kind of just healed like that. This just brings me to say that I did so much to try to fit in high school. Didn't work out so well. I'm going to say age somewhere between 14 and 16, from 14 to 16 was when I got my first taste of rejection. I remember at the age of 14, I was in JROTC, Air Force JROTC. Met this girl. I guess no harm, no foul. We're gonna call her BM. Those are her initials. Man, I thought she was the cutest thing in the world. But she was 2 years older than I was. So she was probably 16, I was 14. And that crush lasted about a year and a half before she got a boyfriend. And I don't know, I guess she wasn't interested. But it was rough because I had to see her every single day in class. Man. And at that age, I didn't have any talks. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to talk to girls. I was weird. It was a very weird time. I don't know how much detail I can go into. I just used to say the weirdest stuff. But I guess that was just me being myself. The only thing I knew was math and books. And I remember she was also one of the smartest kids in the class. And the one thing we had in common, I guess, we used to compete with each other. Like she would get 100 on this test, I'd get a 98, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta get you next time, you know. And I guess that's how that crush kind of came about. But the more important crush was, I would say, my senior year in high school. And I'm calling this trouble because this was not easy. But before I get into the crush, I want to talk about an incident that happened my senior year in high school. Senior year in high school was, I was on the varsity soccer team, and I, still, my way, trying to fit in, playing sports. But although I was kind of known-ish, but you could tell that people still really weren't fond of me for whatever reasons, unbeknownst to me. I was a smart ass. I know now. But this particular day was our first varsity game. We're in the locker room. There's this kid, I'm not gonna say his name, he was a teammate of mine, and I thought we were friends. And everybody's passing the ball, in the gym, and I remember asking for the ball time and time again, and not getting the ball. And I think I may have gotten annoyed, or I don't know, but I wasn't angry. I was not upset. I thought it was just guys being guys, and in an attempt to scare him, like I snuck up behind him and I picked him up. He was a smaller frame guy, but when I picked him up from behind, guys did that stuff. He got so scared that he jerked out of my arms. And when he jerked out of my arms, he fell on his side, hit his, forearm on the concrete, and it was that weird platform where it went from hard, different level surface. So he hit his arm, and his arm snapped in half. He had his bone protruding through his arm, and he was very calm. He was like, dude, you just broke my arm. And I was like, oh, and I felt terrible about it. I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. Coach just told me to go home, turn in all my uniforms. That was my first and last time playing soccer in high school. And, his mom or dad, I guess, tried to press charges and tried to get me on a felony charge, tried to send me to prison. Ended up not getting in that much trouble. I had to do some community service and I had probation for a little bit, only because I had a clean record. I was a straight A student, and I didn't get in much trouble when it came to anything else. So that happened. But after getting kicked off the soccer team, I ended up getting my first job because it was my senior year of high school. I got out of school a little early, so. But around this time also, I met a girl. Very interesting story of how I met the girl. I met the girl, I want to say, a couple of days before that incident. It had to have been maybe January, February. We're going to call her JD because those are her initials. JD, I saw JD in the cafeteria, like on the way. I was in the cafeteria, she was walking down the hallway, and she was sobbing, just crying her. And I didn't know what to do. I just see this girl, she's just sobbing. And, I had a box of chocolates that I was selling for fundraiser. And I didn't know what else to do. I just felt bad that she was crying. And I give her chocolate and I said, I don't know if this helps, but I heard that, chocolate makes girls feel better. And I told her that I didn't like that she was crying, whatever it is, and whatever. And, she laughed, she smiled, and she took it and she was like, wow, that was so sweet. Thank you. And somehow we didn't exchange numbers until about a week later, something like that. And now, as time is progressing, I guess we're communicating. And I think the day before Valentine's Day, I sent her a message. I was like, hey, I know this is kind of last minute. I don't have a Valentine. I'm pretty sure you don't have a Valentine. But I was kind of hoping, this is literally my first attempt at anything, anything with a girl. And this is my senior year of high school. And she's like, yeah. She was like, well, I didn't really get you anything. And I was like, that's okay. So I told my dad, I was excited. My dad took me to Walmart. I went and got some flowers, got some chocolate, got a card. And I remember where I met her was next to the attendance office. And the attendance office was right next to the cafeteria. Miss Neller, I love Miss Neller. I'll always love Miss Neller. She was the lady that was in the attendance office at this time. So I asked Miss Neller, I had the flowers, chocolates, and I had a note. And on the note I said, on the note I wrote what I said to her the day I saw her crying, and I was like, here's some more chocolates, just in case you have any tears left. And I had Miss Neller call her over the intercom, so everybody thought she was in trouble. She was like, JD to the attendance office or whatever. And then she comes to the attendance office, and there are these flowers and chocolates and this card, and I'm there. I'm like, hey, happy Valentine's Day. And she was like, oh my God, so sweet, etc., etc. Phew. Man, I was a simp. I was a sap. And we ended up communicating. And I guess I thought, we were something. I thought we were something. Asked her to prom. She said yes. You know, we ended up going to prom together. And I remember we went out a few times. Like, my parents would drop us off at the skating rink, with skating. And around this time was when I got my first car. Well, it was my dad's car, but I drove it because I had to go to work. So I'd get out of school a little bit early. I'd go. She loved Chick-fil-A. So I'd go pick up her Chick-fil-A, pick her up from school, take her home, or I'd pick her up, would go to Chick-fil-A, you know, and we'd just sit and talk, and then I'd take her home. And this was like my favorite part of every day, just getting to spend that time with her. And this went on for months, a few months, close to prom, I believe. I think after prom was when things took a turn. This particular day, we had a mutual friend. We're gonna call her BB because those are her initials. So this particular day, I came back with her lunch, and she was at her locker. School just let out. BB was next to JD, and they were talking, and I guess they didn't know that I was behind. And BB says to JD, you know, how things going with old dude? And I guess JD is just like, yeah, I really like him. Oh my God, we've been vibing, you know, this, that, and the third. And then BB is like, you're talking about Dami, right? She's like, no, I'm talking about old dude. She named some random guy who goes to a completely different school. And I'm standing there and I'm just like, yo, at that point in time, my heart shattered. I was just like, yo, no way. Oh man, that hurt. I don't know how long it took me to get over that. But I don't know, somehow I made it through the rest of high school. But I don't know how I did that. But at the age of 16, I graduated and started college. So we're gonna dive into college, I guess, on the next episode. So that's a whole movie by itself. So again, this is Real Life with Quepid. I guess this episode wasn't all doom and gloom. You know, this is just, you know, I guess, childhood, I guess. Thank you for tuning in. Real Life with Quepid is a platform to, you know, share, express, feel, encourage, and it's a place for me to be vulnerable and just talk things out and give those who may need to see it done, you know, the courage to do so themselves. 2020 is tough, and we can do this. We will make it by force or by fire. We will make it. So like, comment, subscribe, share, forward to somebody who you feel as though can get something from this. And see you next time on Real Life with Quepid.